I'm just going to start a new series of videos of my garden, and I have to start here just to give you a sense of the location. I'm a recovery practitioner and a well-being coach, and one of the most important tools that I bring to my work in helping other people through their recovery is my own personal experience. So I'm going to be posting some pictures of my garden now as it goes through the year, but linking them back to videos that I made when I was ill. And the first one in February was at a time when I was so unwell that I couldn't even speak like this, and I was creeping around the garden filming it, having only just managed to get up from a really bad crash and make my way outside into the garden again. It was a really important moment for me. Let me just pan around here and show you a little of where I am. So I am north of Glasgow, living right at the foot of the Campsie Fells. The earlier videos that you're going to see were taken in the East Midlands, and it was a garden I loved. It was really hard to leave behind to move here, but that moving was part of my recovery, and part of my recovery was being able to work day by day, build my strength back up again until I was able to climb right to the top of that ridge. A hugely important day for me. I remember reaching the cairn and just weeping for joy, because I'd really thought on those days when I was stuck in my bed and unable to even walk to the toilet without a struggle, or later as I crept around my garden puffing and panting, taking film in little bursts, that I would never be able to do that again. But here I am. Now you've seen the pretty backdrop to this garden. I hope this will give you a sense of just how far I've come on my own recovery journey. This is a pile of wood chip that came from trees that we had to take out when we first moved into this new place. They were growing very overgrown Leylandii, but some big birches as well, which were in brick raised beds and were just destroying everything. So it was a hard thing to do at the beginning of a new garden. But I have been shoveling, and this is probably about half the size that it was when I first started. And where the Leylandii were, I have planted fruit, so that hopefully we will be self-sufficient in soft fruit. I brought with me my blueberries in tubs, and I've planted blackcurrants and strawberries and raspberries. There's rhubarb there, and at the end there are, difficult to see from here, but some cordon apple trees. Hard work, and something that's really helped me to rebuild my fitness and was just unthinkable back in my worst, most ill days. As I said, it was incredibly hard to leave behind a garden that I'd poured so much love and effort into over the years, and it was full of plants that were meaningful to me, that had been given to me by friends and family, and that I tended over a long period of time. But coming here, I start again, and I'm working on a garden that somebody else has loved, exploring it and seeing what's coming up. And one of my favourite things to do in it is to get out the hammock when the weather is better, not so much a February activity, and just lie back and look at those hills. And sometimes there are buzzards wheeling up and down on the thermals there. I've even seen a sea eagle once. And by the gate, another plant that I brought with me from my old garden that is really a reminder of spring and renewal. So at this time of year when things are so dark, it has these lovely furry buds that are going to burst into the most beautiful magnolia flowers. White stars with a really heavy scent that remind me of a holiday I took once, a weekend in Prague with my husband, so full of happy memories. February is not the best time to start garden videos if what you're looking for is prettiness, but this garden is full of meaning to me. It's a garden of healing and renewal, and February is the time when the plants are really beginning to show those signs of life and responding to the longer days. So on the left here we have an iris, which travelled with me, and it spent a year in pots, moving from house to house as we were in rentals. And then on the right is one of the roses that I asked for Christmas. It was really hard to leave my rose bushes behind, so I spent a lot of time before Christmas planting out these roses. And now I can look at them and just imagine what it's going to be like later in the year when they really begin to flourish. And then underneath that netting, I've planted garlic, and I've spent a lot of time clearing out the weeds and the mess from this gravel path. At the back of the beds I've planted soft fruit, which I'm also training so that it doesn't take up much space. Difficult to see, but there's a sort of a trident shape there, which is a gooseberry called Black Velvet, and I took that from a cutting. So that's a reminder of the days when I used to work with volunteers teaching gardening, and we had a lovely day pruning soft fruit, learning how to do that, and then taking the cuttings and creating new plants from them. As I say, February in the garden is a time of looking forward to renewal and new life. This is the fan trade cherry that I've planted. And then here at the foot of the trellis, which is absolutely covered in honeysuckle, the first shoots of the daffodils, asters I think, that were given to me by one of my husband's colleagues who I hardly know, but gardeners are generous people, and when you tell them you've got a new garden, they tend to turn up with lots of offerings. At the back there is a foxglove. And these deep red shoots, these are peonies, so this will be quite a tall plant with the most incredible big pom-pom flowers of bright pink. And then I have more netting, and under this is coriander, which has survived the cold of the winter. There's also some mustard greens. I tend to plant that in the early autumn because it doesn't like the heat, it will bolt straight away. So I grow this for the greenery, and I love to be able to come outside and to be able to pick my own lunches from a whole variety of different salads. Full of nutrition, not like the bags of green that you get in the supermarket that I sometimes think are actually almost compost before you get them. One of the things that I love to do in the garden is just to come out and look in detail at the small things. And here we've got some kale called Ragged Jack with these little droplets of water sitting on them. Like tiny little mirrors, a little world in every one. And it takes it out of my head in all of the thinking. I can just focus on the beauty that's in front of me. Looking at that deep purple of the stem on the left of the picture there too. The richness of these colours. As I said, one of the joys of this garden is discovering what somebody has done with it before. So this bed was full of big birch trees that were destroying all the brickwork. We've taken them out, but these iris spikes are still there, and they'll come up year after year without my having to do anything. I love the aspects of gardening where you really don't have to do an awful lot. And that's what really kept my old garden going when I wasn't fit to go out and look after it. And here we've got tulips, again, planted by somebody years ago, and they just come up year after year after year. This is a particularly special part of the garden to me. When I moved in, this circle was just entirely full of gravel. There was nothing growing in it at all. It just had this sort of wrought iron rose support over the top of it. And the sundial in the middle, but nothing growing at all. And when it rained, it just filled up with water because there was a tarpaulin underneath all that gravel. So I've dug it out, both to let the water drain away, but also to fill it full of flowers. And last summer, there was borage and roses and marigolds and cotton lavender around the front. And I grew runner beans up the poles as something very quick, which produced a lovely shade to sit under. It's now planted up with roses, so I'm so looking forward to being able to sit on this bench and do my meditations under the rose arch. But before the roses come, I've planted this up with wallflowers. I love gardens full of scent, so next to the wallflowers and the roses are sweet williams, which you'll see in bloom later in the year. And this is my greenhouse in February, and I know there's really no point at all in only showing you the pretty parts of my garden and the lovely flowers, because what I want to show you is just how much my garden here and back where I used to live are fundamental to my mental health and to my physical health. and my garden back in the East Midlands was an enormous part of my recovery. So this is what happens in my greenhouse over the winter. All of the stuff that's not being used just gets slung in there so it doesn't get blown away. And I still have the plants there that I didn't get around to getting rid of in autumn. So I'm looking forward to really getting stuck into that, decluttering it if you like, taking the compost from those old plants and spreading it on the beds, ready to help the new plants grow. And here are the other inhabitants of this garden. I'll take you in a little bit closer. There's a lot of gravel here and I'm hoping to put in some raised beds at some point. We weren't able to bring the chickens from the old place, but we've got new ones. Here they are. Hello. And every time they see me they think I'm going to feed them, and you know what? They're right. Oh, and you know what's in this big blue barrel, don't you? Oh, excitement. So what have we got in here? I won't film this because it's not nice to look at. Handful of worms. That's their absolutely favourite thing. And some corn as well. That keeps them busy so they can peck around all afternoon. I've got a speckledy there, and the white one is a white leghorn. And I think the black one is a road rock, and they're right underneath my office window. Just going to bend down and get the lid here. So I can hear them scratching around and talking to each other while I'm working, and they let me know when they've laid an egg. They get very, very loud, calling out in great pride, I think, and I know to come out and have a look. Usually 3 a day at the moment, which is wonderful. They are such relaxing birds to sit and watch. They make these lovely contented noises. And they're always so happy to see me, even if it is just cupboard love. One of my favourite winter jobs is pruning, and I've really pruned this old apple tree very hard. It got so much diseased wood in it. And I love the metaphor there is to be found in pruning, the taking away the dead wood, the stuff that's growing in all the wrong directions, the stuff that's holding it back, so that it will really flourish and fruit in the spring and the summer. And then underneath, I've been barrowing. Here's an awful lot of that wood chip, and some rhododendrons because we're in Scotland. Here's another big job. Was this privet, which was probably about 15 feet high, dominating the front, where there was just the odd leylandii in between. It was a really scratty and far too tall hedge that was just cutting out all of the light. I got this far and I'm just going to have to keep knocking it back, I think, as it grows, because really it's even too big for me to dig out a stump like that. So one of the other big jobs that I did last autumn, after I'd finished with that stump, was planting up this beech hedge which runs all the way along the front, one every 18 inches or so. That was a whole day's work, and that was such a joy again. I don't know if you can see that against the background, and all of that mulch barrowed by hand. A lot of exercise. And then at the end, little plum tree. One of the challenges of moving house when you're a gardener is really not wanting to leave behind some of your most beloved plants. And the 2 apple trees on the left here that are now in the ground were ones that I had done on a grafting course when I was working for Garden Organics. I really wanted to bring those with me. And then the one on the right was grown as a pip, from a pip by my daughter. And those came in the back of the removal van with all my furniture, and I finally found their permanent home in the ground here. So as I said, this is a warts and all video, my garden in February, and it wouldn't be complete without the engine of the garden. I am very interested in composting. I taught it for a little while, and one of the great joys now, though it might seem strange to non-gardeners, is actually creating my own compost. So you see the wheelbarrow there, behind there is a hot bin, which is where all our food waste goes. And one of the things that I'm able to do now, in addition to the hill walking, that I never thought I'd get back to, is being able to turn the compost and create new growing medium and enrich my soil here from all of the waste. That's a wonderful thing to be able to do. So I hope you've enjoyed this video, and I hope it's given you just a flavour of how far I've come on my own recovery journey. And I would really encourage you to look at my February video of my previous garden, where I'm walking around in the snow, puffing and panting, and just finding such joy in being able to move outside again. And I look forward to returning and showing you how things have progressed in March. If you found this video helpful, please do click on like below and subscribe to my channel. You might also like to hop across using the links to my Facebook or LinkedIn pages, where you'll find much more content.